What are the differences between analog signal and digital signal? The first difference and the most important is the analog wave or analog signal is continuous and it changes amplitude with respect to time. Now the kid, he is say shouting or he is singing, it is continuous in nature. If he is not speaking, there will be loudness will be less, so it can be represented by a say short amplitude waveform. If he is speaking in a say loud manner, it can be higher amplitude. So continuous changes by amplitude with respect to time. As opposed to analog, digital signal are discrete waves which takes discrete value like the binary waveform with respect to time. So here we have the ones and zeros and they are not continuous. This is the actual digital signal which you see, not the way the continuity which you see here. There is no continuity. There is no continuity here. In digital signal, it is only the discrete values. It can be 0, it can be 1 only. And if I take you to a sin omega t, analog signal for because it is analog signal, it will produce an analog signal. Sine can give you all the values with amplitude. A is the amplitude, not in digital signal. The second difference is analog signal is represented by sine wave or any other waveform. It can be periodic, it can be non-periodic or aperiodic. Okay, but this waveform can be in all the forms. It is not always the sine, because sine wave is very continuous. It is very periodic. So this aperiodicity and is also there in analog signal. In digital signal, it is represented by the square waves, or it can have different shapes also. But remember, it is not a wave. These signals are discrete. They are made as continuous in order to represent them in a good form. Now the third thing important for analog signal is there are three parameters which are used to define this analog signal. Their amplitude, frequency and time period, also the phase. Because frequency and time period, they are almost equal. They are the inverse of one another. Frequency is inversely proportional to time period. F is 1 by t. Frequency and wavelength are inversely related. So if you see amplitude, wavelength and phase, if you change, the waveform will change. Alright. So there can be different analog signal for different amplitude, wavelength and phase. And these all amplitude, wavelength and phase, they define an analog signal. But the digital signal, they are defined and they are analyzed with respect to the bit rate, the baud rate, the bit interval, the data rate, etc. Alright. Analog signal by frequency, the phase and amplitude, as opposed to analog signal, digital signals are defined by bit interval and bit rate. Bit interval is nothing but the time required to send one single bit. And bit rate is the number of bit interval per second. In this case, if you count the number of bits, there are 8. So this means that this bit rate is the number of bits sent in 1 second. In this example, we have 8 bits per second. So bit rate and baud rate, they are very important factors in digital signal. The next difference is analog signal takes continuous range of amplitude values because there are infinite number of possible values. For every value of, say, if you make a graph, every value of certain time, you will get a value of voltage. So you will have infinite values. That is how these infinite values, the samples are taken. See, analog signals, if it is a signal AM or frequency modulation, whichever is there, you will get it in continuity. Digital signal are actually made by analog signal only. So we take the samples of this analog signal, then we quantize it, and that is how we are actually coming to 0 and 1. So this digital signal takes finite set of discrete values, the binary values 1 and 0. The next difference is analog signal is more prone to the distortion or noise. If these two persons are standing, they are 2 meter or 5 meter apart, they will be able to understand each other. 100 meter may not be possible, 1 kilometer impossible. Okay, because there are distortion or noise or attenuation. digital signal is less prone to distortion or noise because 0 volt means 0, 5 volt means 1. Okay. Now let us take an certain example. Analog signal, human voice. These are produced and captured by microphone. This is an analog signal. Mobile phone also captured the human voice. This is also an example of analog signal and converts the same into digital signal using the analog to digital converter. So the analog signal can be converted to digital, and these digital signal, the examples can be the computer. The computer buses inside, the computer wires outside, your USB or your any kind of earphone, they are producing and receiving the digital signals. Okay.